I am excited to now welcome a couple guest speakers from Hyland joining us today. So we have John Keberly, who is someone we work with quite frequently. He's an account executive for Channel. He's going to give us a sneak preview of what to expect at this year's Community Live. And then we also have Mike Askren joining us from Hyland as well. He's the AVP of Product Management. He's going to be giving us an overview of the product roadmap and what are some things to expect in the next few years from Hyland. So thank you so much, John.
Hey, everybody. My name is John Keberly, account executive with Hyland. For anybody that I haven't met yet, thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Claire, DataBank team, for putting this together. We're really excited to have everybody in person for these kind of events. And really what I'm here to do is just plug the next big one, and that's OnBase Hyland Community Live. And that's coming up here in October. But a little bit about my role, my position at Hyland. I'm the primary relationship manager that supports the relationship with DataBank. So in that, I work to support all of you. So thank you for being Hyland customers. Thank you for continuing to grow and invest money into your solutions. And we look forward to all of the amazing things you do with the software. And really everything we've heard today it's been wonderful. It's been fantastic. And it's awesome to hear. It makes us really excited and fired up. And we love to hear these things about the software. So we're excited this year. It's going to be our first year at a new location, which is Caesars Forum. It's actually located right across the street from Caesars Palace. All of the events are going to be centrally located, so you don't need to walk around, don't need to go anywhere. Funny story, last time I was actually on stage under lights like these were at last year's Community Live when I was singing karaoke. So a little bit different circumstances, but still excited either way. All of the information that I'm going to show today is available in greater detail on CommunityLIVE.com. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to your DataBank team. We're happy to connect you with resources to get you more detailed information about the agenda or really just answer any miscellaneous questions you guys have. Quick high-level run-through of the day-by-day. Sunday to Monday is the hands-on technical trainings. This is going to be all of your certification and recertifications are going to be gotten done on those 2 days. Tuesday and Wednesday is the more general conference. I would say these are for the non-technical users. It's going to be full of general sessions, some presentations. That's going to be from Hyland, from other customers that are using the same software, and really just panel discussions. So these are really, I would call this the main conference. So these are the days to really focus on if you just want to learn more about what's coming with Hyland, what's coming with the product, and what's coming with the solutions. And then Thursday's a little different. It's more focused on professional development and community impact activities. So it's really just an opportunity for us all to get together, collaborate, grow in our careers and our development, and really, come together and have some positive impact on the community. Digging in deeper on Sunday and Monday on what to expect, they're pretty straightforward. All day trainings. There's no event going on in the evening on Monday. I'm sorry, on Sunday. On Monday afterwards, though, there is a pub quiz going on at Caesars. And all of these are the advanced trainings, all of the recertifications. If you're looking for a more detailed list on what to expect, on what that actual training schedule looks like, it's all available on CommunityLIVE.com. So we'll be sending it out to you guys for sure. Tuesday and Wednesday both kick off with general sessions in the morning, followed by industry and departmental breakouts. It's going to be a kind of choose your own track throughout the day. You can jump in and out of different sessions, really make your own adventure on what you want to get the most out of your day. And then at 5:30 on Tuesday, we have our welcome happy hour because that's when we expect the bulk of the users to be showing up. So that's when we're having our welcome. It's located at Community Central at Caesars. And if you're not familiar with Community Live in the past, Community Central is essentially just a giant conference room filled with Hyland employees, sponsors, all sorts of people to kind of just get together, collaborate, BS a little bit, and it's a really good time. Wednesday, similar to Tuesday, kicks off with general sessions, but something that we're really excited about, which is new for Wednesday of this year, is our Hyland Innovation Awards. In line with kind of what has been discussed today, we're super excited to highlight some of the stories, talk about some of the things that you guys are doing with the software. So we highly encourage DataBank, reach out to me if you want help to submit your ideas on what you're doing with the software to our website, because we are reviewing those. Awards are going to be going out. We're just really excited to continue to highlight what you guys are doing, because you give ideas to everybody else. We're just the software manufacturers. We just want to, highlight and really show what you're doing. Evening event on Wednesday is a get together at Caesar's Palace Pool. So pack your swimsuits if you would like. Thursday's a little bit different than usual. It kicks off with user group meetings, followed by a general session with a guest speaker. Last year's speaker was incredible, highly motivating. I kind of walked out of there with the chills, and it was really just, it was an all-around good experience. Then it breaks up into kind of 3 different tracks, workshops with, kind of just general discussions with other community and user groups. Then there's professional development sessions, and then the community impact activities. So really it's, again, just choose your own adventure. You kind of make the most out of what you're trying to get out of it, but there's definitely something for everyone there. And then the evening activity is a little bit different than years past. There's actually a handful of different shows that you can pick to go from in Vegas. Last year, we made everybody go to the Bare Naked Ladies. Not everybody necessarily had the best reaction to that. So this year, we're letting everybody kind of pick their own thing. So next steps, a couple big things to call out here is that early bird registration does end at the end of this month. You can see there's a significant amount of savings if you do register before end of month, and the longer that you wait, the more expensive that it gets. There's a couple different registration pass types. Some of them it's just technical training. Some of it's all 5 days. Some of it's just for the main conference days. So it's really, what's going to make the most for you and what really matters to you. And for a lot of people, if you're more technical, it might just be sticking around for those 2 days of certifications. But for others, it might be getting the whole 5 days out of the conference. And then just some key dates to call out. Next Tuesday, I think it is, May 9th, we have it's a What's New in Community Live. It's going to have more details than I have to share today, even what to expect when you get there. So I would highly urge everybody to reach out and to your databank team and get a link to that, and we're happy to send it out. These next 2 should probably be switched, but early bird registration, again, it ends on May 31st. Just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Want to make everybody get the most cost-effective option to getting there. June 30th is the nomination deadline for the Customer Innovation Awards. So make sure you get those submitted. Again, work with your databank team, reach out to me directly. I'd love to just submit the ideas for you if you like. Just want to make sure you guys are getting the recognition for what you're doing with the software. July 31st, a good call out is that the registration discounts end for alumni, group, and international attendees. So I think the discount rate's typically, I think, $200. So you save $200 by if you've gone in the past or if you sign up with groups of 3 or more. So just another important date to keep on the calendar. And then on August 18th, the hotel block discount ends. And with that, that was really my main plug, was just to get up here and talk about the next community event, because these are really, I think, the most beneficial for everybody. We really enjoy getting everybody together in a room together and really collaborate and get to know how you're using and getting your hands dirty with the software. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Askren. He is our AVP of Product Management, and he's going to kind of talk into some of the advancements that we're making in OnBase and really kind of some of the roadmap near term for the future.
Thanks, John, and thanks to the databank team for having us both here today. As John said, I'll be giving a little bit of an overview of what's coming in OnBase and the upcoming calendar year release, and then as well as some of our advancements beyond that. I guess I'll just do a quick audio visual check. Can everybody see the presentation and hear me? All right, I see the presentation showing up on the feedback loop here, so I think we're in a good position. Just before I begin, it's good to note that I'm going to be sharing some future vision statements here, projecting our best intents and our roadmap, and in fact some of the work that's in flight and nearly complete for release later this year. But these are clearly not commitments to specific timelines of availability. And therefore, interpret this as strategy and vision, and not necessarily a commitment for delivery or something that you should make a particular buying and purchasing decision upon. But I am excited here to share with you today what we have in store for the upcoming 23.1 release this fall, as well as some of our expectations in 24 and beyond. Just to get us started here with the agenda, I'll first be focusing on kind of the 4 product strategic themes that are driving our direction and really every evaluation that we make. And then I'm going to dive into a couple of those a little bit deeper around our focus on end user experience in the application before I get to kind of a walkthrough of the more of a timeline view of the roadmap for this coming fall, as well as the next couple of years as well. So that should give you kind of some context of what I'll be talking about today. So I'll go ahead and jump into the strategic themes, or at least bring up the introduction to that. This compasses here is very deliberate. These strategic themes are something that we evaluate literally every backlog and development decision that we're making for OnBase, and really prioritizing needs within the product portfolio and driving the strategic direction such that we continue to deliver on these objectives that, based upon conversations with you as customers and our partners, are very, very important to, delivering and continuing to drive solution success in your organizations. As you can see here, the 4 themes kind of across the top of the columns here. We have user experience driven innovation, a user journey to web and mobile. Those first 2 are very closely related, and I'll talk a little bit more about that tie-in here in a moment. And then we have continuing to improve our hosted customer experience, mostly focused on the self-service capabilities through the Hyland Cloud, as well as easier administration of OnBase that improves both on-prem and hosted customers' experience. And then kind of the ever-present 4th pillar around stability of the application, security, and serviceability, ensuring a long-lived and certainly compliant persistence of the application, focused on global security standards and cryptography, and network and infrastructure security as well. I'll come back to the first couple of strategic themes here and talk a little bit about the goals of those, as you can see kind of outlined in the sub-bullets underneath them. And as you likely are familiar with today, we have multiple user interfaces as part of the OnBase delivery. We have the desktop thick client that's been around a number of years. We have Unity that's been around for a number of years as well, and the web client also. And kind of the requirement for some solution participants to understand the patterns of navigation and all of those and the capabilities delivered within them has certainly been challenging. And we acknowledge that and appreciate the concerns that creates as you are driving and delivering solutions on the platform. So part of that goal is to incorporate feedback from customers. Maybe you yourself have had an opportunity to participate in one of our user experience research sessions that we've done over the last couple of years, as we've invested more in the research side of this before investing in the delivery side of it. But really trying to focus on the specific task end users are trying to achieve, and put us in a position where we can deliver or allow you really as solution deliverers to configure role-based and persona-based applications. And I'll dive into that more in some upcoming slides, really allowing you to tailor that experience of what's important to a particular end user and their use of the application to the interface that they're accessing the application through. And that ties in well because we're delivering that new user experience on top of the web client and web server architecture. And that brings us to the journey through the web, as well as continued enhancements we're making in mobile. Ultimately optimizing the experience in those 2 platforms in an effort to allow users to transition away from the thick client as the first target for kind of interactive end user scenarios, and then later in time begin to focus on capabilities that are exposed perhaps only in Unity today, and making those available in the web client through this new improved user experience delivery as well. With that, all targeting, bringing the user experience of the web client up to kind of current day usage patterns and expectations of your end users, as well as making it very intuitive and efficient for adoption of new users that you might be bringing on to solutions that you continue to roll out in your organization, ultimately allowing that transition away from those desktop deployed applications and managing those desktop deployments. I touched on the hosted customer experience just a little bit in terms of improving self-service systems administration. So think of things like stopping and starting services, the ability to manage configurations in web.config files, and then as well as the new and improved OnBase admin portal that was released last fall in 22.1 and continue to make improvements or additional configurations available in it for that administrative kind of solution administrator user experience. Ultimately providing a path to move away from the config client that's been around for a number of years as well. And then we continue to invest in optimizations for deployment and upgrades. You may have witnessed some of the improvements we made last year to server updater in the fall, and those being available, and we continue to evaluate opportunities there for that as well. And then just tying up maybe the stability, security, and serviceability. We're doing a number of things to update things in the platform. You'll see later mentions in my presentation here around NIST 800-53 standards, as well as adoption and support for TLS 1.3 and things of that nature as we continue to drive forward security in the platform, as well as updating to the latest versions of Microsoft frameworks as we look to move from .NET framework implementations to .NET standard implementations in the application stack across the board. So I'd like to take a moment now to go deeper into this topic of web and mobile user experience. As noted before, our focus is really on delivering experience that resonate with end users in the terms they use daily to describe their work and how they think of their business process. And to expand upon that, here you can see some visuals of what that might look like for an end user in this persona-driven application delivery. It's a big shift for us as we look to provide the opportunity for solution administrators to create customized homepages with easy navigation patterns within them, as well as presenting elements of the UI in terms familiar to the user. So the ability to apply labels that are meaningful to the end user and kind of foregoing the requirement for end users to understand ECM or even OnBase specific terminology such as keywords or custom queries or other terminology specific to the platform, and allowing you to deliver applications to users that are kind of in their terminology and the way that they think about their work. And I'll walk through an example of that coming up here in a moment. As I alluded to a moment ago, this is delivered on top of the existing web server and web client architecture. It also is delivered in a way that allows you to build on top of your existing solutions. So any existing document types, workflow lifecycles, custom queries, folder configurations, ultimately, eventually work view capabilities can be configured and displayed through this new user experience pattern. And that is done in Studio with a simple point and click configuration that I'll illustrate here in a moment with a kind of a walkthrough demo of what that looks like. So let's take a moment and maybe walk through delivering these role-based experiences from the perspective of an application builder who is configuring these role-based user experiences. Here we have Anna, who is tasked with producing a new HR employee file management solution. She can now do that by assembling apps within a new component in Studio known as Application Builder. And here in this visual, maybe you can see a new tab here known as App Builder and the ability to choose a new application. I'm actually going to turn on the annotation here to maybe highlight this a little bit. So yeah, you can follow my cursor a little bit better now. Here you can see, she's pressed the new application button. She's presented with a dialog where she can give that application kind of a system name of how it might appear in the studio, as well as the name of how it would be displayed to the end user when they access it within the browser. And the route reflects kind of the path it would be accessed from on the web server URL. And then she has the ability to choose a theme or color palette that maybe resonates with your organization, maybe the branding of your organization or a particular department even, such that it just kind of feels like part of the organization to your end users. The next step is then to choose between configuring one of two screen layout types. The first that's listed here is the master detail with sources. We'll see that in a moment. And then the quick access, which is more of the dashboard view that a user would see when they first enter this new role-based application delivered to them. Once choosing a screen type, you are then choosing the data sources to be displayed in that screen. And you can see a few of those sources available here in this example. There are additional sources that will be supported in this first release in the fall in 23.1. But in this use case, she has selected a document type query. And then from there, she can provide a label for what that result set will be presented as in the screen. As well as a direct route to that data source within the UI presentation, and then actually choosing the document type query behind that, that this screen element will be based upon. Kind of the fourth and final step, and yes, I'm simplifying this a little bit for the walkthrough and the time that we have today, but is the ability to assign user group rights to this particular application. In the screenshot, it says admin config, but admittedly, it would probably say something more like along the lines of, the HR generalist group or something reflective of the HR business department that would be leveraging this particular application. But from there, you've completed a quick kind of walkthrough configuration of a very basic delivery of an app with one data source as part of that application. You could, of course, add more data sources to the screen and assign additional groups to it, but hopefully this helps give you an idea of what that would look like configuring it in Studio. So now let's take a moment to look at what that would look like for the end user and their efficiency of using it, kind of accessing content presented to them in the context of their business terminology and how they think about their day-to-day work with the content kind of pushed and delivered to them. So here we have Erica and her role that we can all probably resonate with a little bit, being hired into an organization. Her job is to ensure that every new employee has submitted all of their required documents as part of their employee onboarding process as new hires. And Erica can do that through this new app that Anna has configured for her and delivered for her use in the system. Identify missing documents or employees with missing documents. So when she would access the application, she would first be in the Home tab here, and she would have tiles presented to her of the most common things that she would be working on, or perhaps the most urgent things to be brought to her attention to work on. This first tile is labeled Assigned to Me. So these are all work items assigned to her. The next is Emergency. So maybe some more things that are a little bit more urgent for her to take on. Items that might be awaiting assignment, so might require her to take some action to assign them to others, as well as a list of things that are missing documents or the ability to perform an easy search to find a document or find an employee. So her most commonly used functions that she would perform are available to her here, as well as the ability to initiate an HR assistance request as a Unity form, or a missing document request as a Unity form that would get, maybe sent out to the employee asking them to upload that. I'll come back to that point a little bit later with a preview of what that would look like, as well as an opportunity for her to upload documents that maybe she received via email or some other source that she has them locally on her workstation and would like to upload those to the system. She's going to move into the find an employee. So in this example from maybe the home screen, she just clicked the find an employee option and it took her into a result set preview. She has the opportunity to further filter that here using these search inputs to filter that. And then of course the result set here, she could select those results or open any one of those results. And then I'll go ahead and navigate forward here in the animation, and you can see kind of on the left is all the data sources in this master detail screen. You can see to the right the different data sources that will be supported in 23.1 for solutions. So namely, document types, custom queries, custom folder queries, workflow driven solutions, as well as forms, and then reporting dashboards, which we'll come back to in some subsequent slides. For each of those data sources that's displayed on the left that she can retrieve, various documents related to her role and function, she can, the administrator can configure specific actions applied to that particular data source. Effectively meaning if the user performs different actions based upon different result sets or that would be returned for a given data source, only those actions are going to show up here in the upper right-hand corner where the actions are available. And you can see the list of actions that are going to be available there. Maybe not surprising, the ability to import documents, the ability to initiate a new Unity form, the ability to open a custom URL, which is an interesting option in that if this user, as part of their role and function, commonly accesses another application to maybe verify or validate some information, you could embed the URL to that behind a button here in the UI, allowing them to pop out to that application, perform a lookup, do something there, and then continue on with their function in the OnBase app. Of course, workflow ad hoc tasks for workflow capabilities, and of course, the ability to execute system tasks. Admittedly, you don't see work view here, and that is targeted for our upcoming 24.1 release that we'll see a little bit later when I get to the kind of the timeline view of the roadmap. The additional tab across the top here is reports. So she can access any reporting dashboards that she has assigned privilege to within the system. In this particular case, it's a dashboard for employees that are missing documents, very relevant to her role and function, and presented within the presentation layer of this new UI design pattern. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was from a forms perspective. You can see here the presentation of the form in this new presentation layer. And of course, just like you would today, the user would have the ability to attach related documents to the form and then submit that into the system for further processing as part of the request. In this case, we're showing an HR assistance request. So maybe Erica in her role needs to make a request to another part of the HR team to maybe make a change to an employee record or something of that nature in their HRIS system. So that gives you an overview of an HR use case. And while that was used as an example that we can most likely all relate to in some regard, this feature setting capability, including documents and workflow and forms capabilities and reports capabilities, I think has pretty broad applicability across our various verticals that the majority of our customers reside in, and very applicable to solutions that involve kind of management of a file of data or application documents related to a particular source or individual or vendor or student, as well as workflow processes that facilitate the business review of those content pieces and ultimately executing an action and an outcome for the organization. A few of those examples seen here on the slide, but certainly not limited to those. I hope for each of you that are attending today, maybe can begin to think about and visualize how this would empower you to deliver kind of a new streamlined user interface with maybe an app for different roles within even a single given department that perform different activities and really fine tune that delivery of the UI to them. Maybe to just review for a moment the capabilities targeted for OnBase apps in the 23.1 release. as covering kind of the landing page, the dashboard, the content import capability, the ability to display action and take action on content, the various query types that are supported, forms creation, folder support, and then reporting dashboards, as we've seen illustrated in the prior slides. In addition to this new OnBase apps capability, we're making some investments into just the core base web client usability and enabling improved usability of that. Some of that is improvements to the overall theming and styling. So think a little bit about spacing and color palette and maybe the design of buttons and toolbars being improved, bringing them up to maybe more current design standards, as well as adding improved support for tablet navigation, including gesture support on tablets. We have a fair number of our customer base that leverage the web client on tablet for particular solution use cases. And then somewhat tied into that, but also independent of tablet, is support for a new mode that allows you to configure kind of per user preference the web client to operate in a single browser tab mode. For those that maybe have used the web client historically, are familiar with the current patterns where the web client will open additional tabs in the browser, additional windows, modal dialogues that can sometimes be challenging, certainly on mobile, but even on a desktop in a browser, and maybe the opportunity for things to get lost in the background. So this new single browser tab mode allows a user to choose their personal preference on a given device platform where they're accessing the web client and have that remembered for that device platform. Or that may be that instance of the browser, to be more specific of how it behaves. That summarizes kind of our investment in the web client user experience and the overall kind of desktop user experience. I'm going to touch a little bit now on some continued enhancements around mobile as we look to continue to advance the feature set capability in the improved OnBase mobile offering that was introduced initially in Foundation EP4 and continues to advance, allowing us to ultimately retire at some point the long-lived native mobile applications that often had variances in the Android and iOS experience and just needed an overall improvement in kind of the flow and usability of those apps. So as the first two bullet points illustrate, improved user experience and improved consistency in the user experience between iOS and Android, and the feature set alignment between iOS and Android. That's ultimately enabled by this being a hybrid application that's rendering an HTML web app inside a native mobile shell that is installed on the device known as Hyland Mobile. But for 23.1, we are adding capabilities for eForms, Uniforms, and image forms, the ability to create, view, and submit for those. We have had some prior support for Unity forms in workflow, but adding more capabilities there around our forms products. As well as the ability, some additional workflow task support for displaying forms, creating notes, creating e-forms, and the ability to select a user for user assignment as part of a workflow task, as part of the business solution implemented in workflow. So that's our investments in mobile, continue to further that offering in 23.1. Which brings me now to the more kind of broad OnBase roadmap and a little bit of a view of what that timeline looks like for you as customers as well. Here you can see kind of the 2023 and 2024 timeline. You'll note that our 23.1 release targeted for Q3 of this year, around the August timeframe. And you'll see kind of those categories of investment that I touched on at the very beginning around user experience, web and mobile, hosted customer experience, stability, security, and serviceability. And those themes will carry on through this slide, as well as the next slide into 2025 and 2026. The first couple of sections I've covered quite a bit of in the prior slides with the visual illustrations around OnBase apps, as well as the mobile component. I would note we have a couple of other key items coming in 23.1 with support for native PDF notes and annotation capabilities, meaning that a PDF that maybe was created outside of OnBase has native embedded notes and annotations within that PDF. Those are rendered as first-class objects, if you will, within OnBase now in the web client. And you also have the ability to apply notes and annotations in the web client, and then export that PDF for collaboration with an external user. If that external user opens the PDF in their PDF viewer of choice, those notes and annotations applied in OnBase will appear just as if they were applied in, your favorite PDF editor native application outside of OnBase. That's really a goal to enable that collaboration on PDF content. It's been a big request over the past several years, and we're certainly glad to be able to introduce some of that capability and make it easier to use than maybe it's been to use in the Unity client in the past, with some of the additional frameworks that would require to leverage those type of capabilities in the Unity client. Kind of building upon that to the right, you can see continued focus on that in the 24.1 timeline to add the ability for adding pages to a PDF, moving pages around in a PDF, or removing pages, deleting pages from a PDF when viewing it in OnBase. So kind of page level manipulation, as well as our first targeted delivery for a responsive Unity Forms capability, with the ability to create new forms in OnBase. Further down the timeline in our roadmap, we're looking for certainly the opportunity to upgrade existing forms that you may have in OnBase to be responsive Unity forms, such that you didn't have to rebuild everything. But this first release would be the ability in 24.1 to create a new responsive Unity form. You see continued focus in OnBase apps as well for work view, as well as adding localization, so translation for additional languages, as well as numeric format differences across different locales, coming in that 24.1 timeline. If you haven't heard from Hyland already, we are also shifting our release cadence, such that instead of releasing in the fall of each year, we're going to be releasing in Q1 of each subsequent year moving forward, with 2024 being the first year for that. So the 24.1 release will be a relatively fast follow, if you will, to 23.1, but kind of initiates a new cadence of annual releases for OnBase. Looking through some of the remaining items here and being respectful of the time we have here today, I probably won't go through every single bullet. Hopefully you're able to scan through some of this and see it as well. But you will see continued investment in mobile and web, with us adding additional capabilities to the web client, namely starting with capabilities that are only available in the Thick client today, adding them into the web client. And then ultimately, if I were to jump forward to the 2026 timeframe, you'll see our objective is to ultimately remove the dependency or need for the Thick client for user interactive, so end user activity. The use cases for the Thick client, where you're performing system kind of server side activities such as dip, we'll continue to leverage the Thick client architecture, but our goal is to really be able to allow end users that are performing, document retrieval or other activities in the Thick client to move to the web client for that. So as a result, you see things like the workflow being sunset in the Thick client in this 23.1 release in the fall, and subsequent releases have additional things targeted for sunsetting in the Thick client individual modules, leading up to the eventual retirement of the interactive user interface in the Thick client. I mentioned the hosted customer experience and the ability to manage web server config files through the kind of new self-service portal in the Hyland Cloud. Continued investment in the OnBase admin portal with the ability to configure doc type groups and keyword type groups in this fall. adding support for audit retrieval in the 24 timeframe. And then kind of improvements to long-running jobs in the thick client from a hosted experience, as well as the interaction with external data sources from the Hyland Cloud and synchronizing those data sources that are critical to likely workflow, forms, external autofill capabilities, and WorkView external classes as well. You see continued investment in the REST API. I mentioned NIST 800 compliance around encryption key management, cryptography compliance overall, malicious code detection capabilities. So think of like malware and virus scanning. And then important to many of our customers is compliance with the accessibility guidelines, web content accessibility guidelines, the new updated standard for 2.1 AA. And I won't spend a lot of time going through the 2025 and 26 timeline, but just be aware of the kind of that continued pattern of investment, adding more capabilities to the web client and therefore OnBase apps, as well as improving the overall administration experience of OnBase apps, continued investment around native PDF capabilities. You can see the ability to move pages between documents targeted for the 2025 timeline. I mentioned the continued investment around responsive Unity forms, and then kind of on down the screen is very much the same themes in advancing the web client, continued investment in the OnBase admin portal and self-service capabilities, REST API, NIST compliance, and WCAG compliance. With that, knowing that I'm probably pushing the boundary for time, I'll pause and maybe take see if there's any questions. I'll try to look at the Q&A and chat. I see that Kirby asked, will the web client have feature parity with Unity? And that is our eventual goal, is to put us in a position that users can move away from both the the thick client, the OnBase client, as well as the Unity client in time. Our focus, as you probably saw here, is very much on the thick client initially, and then we'll begin to transition focus towards the Unity client and addressing gaps between web and Unity as well in the future.
Okay, thank you so much, Mike.